Welcome guys to today's class. In this video, we want to discuss an important topic in biology: cell and its structures. Yes. First of all, what does cell mean? Cell simply means the basic, the structural, the smallest, and the functional unit of life. That means if you think or you want to think of any smallest unit of life, think of cell. Cell is the smallest unit of life. This cell can be classified in various ways. One, you can classify them as plant cell, you can classify them as animal cell. Then you can also have organisms that can possess both plants and animal cells, such as Euglena viridis. Yes, such organisms are said to be dual organisms. Yes, dual organisms simply mean an organism that possesses both plant-like feature and animal-like feature. You know that when an organism possesses plant-like feature, the implication is that they have ability or they can produce their own food. Yes, when organisms possess animal-like feature, it can also mean that they depend on already produced food by the plants. Yes. Now, this cell can also be classified based on number of cells an organism possess. That is unicellular organism and multicellular organism. That is, when you talk about unicellular organism, we are talking about this organism has only one cell. You are talking about multicellular organism, you are talking about this organism have many cells. That is more than one cell. Now, example of unicellular organism we can think of is Amoeba proteus, Euglena viridis, Chlamydomonas, Paramecium, and so on. Then example of multicellular organism includes animals like higher animals like human being will fall in there. Yes, we have many cells. Other animals we talk about or can think about, they also have many cells. It is important to note that a multicellular organism, the implication is that the cells in multicellular organism always depend on one another to carry out their function. Take for instance, in human, we have many cells. We have nerve cells, we have red blood cells, white blood cells, and all have you. Let's consider nerve cell and red blood cell. Nerve cell helps in transmitting electrical signals in the body. Yes. Now, for nerve cells to keep living, it needs oxygen. And what brings the oxygen? It is the red blood cell. Red blood cell help to carry food and oxygen around the whole body. So it helps to supply the nerve cell oxygen for it to keep living. That means the nerve cell depends on red blood cell for the supply of oxygen so that it can continue living and continue carry out its function. And that is why we say all the cells in multicellular organisms depend on one another for them to be able to carry out their functions. In this video, we want to discuss some of the features, structural features, basic features, which you can see in any of these cells we talk about or any of these organisms we talk about, whether we are talking about plants, animal, unicellular, multicellular. We want to discuss some of the basic structural features that can be seen in them, which includes nucleus, cytoplasm, mitochondria, endoplasmic reticulum, and all have you. Let's discuss it. Now, the first feature we want to discuss is the cytoplasm. Yes. This consists of everything within the cell except the nucleus. The cell organelles are embedded there. You can define cytoplasm as protoplasm without nucleus. Protoplasm without nucleus. Protoplasm without nucleus. That is the summary of what you see on the board. Protoplasm without nucleus is a simple definition of cytoplasm. But if they ask you what is protoplasm, it's a cytoplasm with nucleus. So you see, they are in two ways. Cytoplasm is protoplasm without nucleus. Protoplasm is cytoplasm with nucleus. So notice, it is important to note that it is in this cytoplasm, in fact, at the cytosol of this cytoplasm, that glycolysis takes place. Yes. What do we mean by glycolysis? Glycolysis simply means an anaerobic breakdown of glucose to produce pyruvate, energy in form of ATP and other molecules. Yes, anaerobic, because this breakdown process does not involve oxygen. Yes. Now, when we talk about mitochondria, they are spherical or rod-shaped bodies which contains enzymes that carry out oxidation of food. Yes, that means any process or breakdown that will be taking place here, oxygen must be involved. That is no longer anaerobic but aerobic. In mitochondrium, there is aerobic breakdown. In cytoplasm, there is anaerobic breakdown. That is what you need to know. They convert potential energy of different food material into a form of energy that can be used by the cell to carry out its various activities. It is popularly known as the powerhouse of the cell. Yes, it is in this mitochondrium that tricarboxylic acid cycle takes place. Electron transport chain takes place in this mitochondrium, because tricarboxylic acid cycle, electron transport chain, they require oxygen for them to be able to take place. And mitochondrium, there is oxygen there. In mitochondria, there is always oxygen to help in oxidation of food. So that is why they carry out their cycle or their own breakdown in the mitochondria. Okay? Now, cell membrane, it is a semi-permeable membrane that surrounds the cytoplasm of the cell. And we want to go to the next feature, which is chloroplasts. They are found majorly in plant cells. They contain pigments. The most prominent of these pigments we talk about is chlorophyll. It is greenish in color, which traps energy from sunlight and you use it for production or synthesis of food by the process of photosynthesis. Next is ribosome. It's important to know that these organelles, that is ribosomes, are sites for protein synthesis in cells that are specially for protein synthesis, such as liver cell, such as pancreas, because they synthesize large amount of proteins. Yet, it's also important to know that this ribosome constitutes as much as 25% of the dry weight of the cell. Yes, and this ribosome that synthesize this protein are attached to the membrane of the endoplasmic reticulum.